Over the last several weeks, we've tried to give you some insight into the science that governs our climate. Tonight, doctors Allie, Evans, and Titley are back, and they're here to discuss some unique adaptation strategies going forward. It's another edition of Earthbeat as we complete our trilogy on the climate.
There's an old joke about the person that falls off of the top of the Empire State Building and he's on the way down and saying, well, it's okay so far, right? We don't actually hit the bottom that way, but it does get harder and harder.
The it that Dr. Allie is referring to here is the ability to adapt to some of the effects that can be seen in a changing climate.
A little bit of change, not that big a deal. The climate is always varied. We've dealt with variability. As you move outside of what you're used to, as you move outside of your adaptive capability, the costs go up a lot. So the first degree of warming, almost free, we've used that. The second degree of warming, cost more. We're probably committed to most of that.
It is important to come together to help mitigate any further warming, or else things that have been repeatedly easy or like second nature to us start to become much more difficult. For example, it might become hard to work outside unprotected, or with changing weather patterns, it could be hard to raise crops, raise your farm animals. More warming also would continue to melt more snow and ice, and that would make the seas continue to come up.
So one is we will have to adapt to the changes that are coming. There's a saying in the Navy and the submarine force, and they say, the stupid shall be punished. So let's not be stupid, because we know these changes are coming. The seas are coming up. We are seeing both warmer weather, we are seeing more intense precipitation. I mean, just last year, right? Just north of State College, we had tremendous flooding. My guess is if that had been 15 miles further south in State College, quite a few people would have probably lost their lives.
While visible trends are for warming and more extreme precipitation events, it is important not to lose sight that there are certainly wiggles along the way.
Climate goes up and down because the sun gets a little brighter and a little dimmer. Volcanoes sometimes block the sun and we have a cold year after that. The Pacific Ocean sloshes back and forth in El Niños and La Niñas. And so you have these ups and downs. And then from our CO2, you have an up and up and up. And if you add up and up and up to up and down and up and down and up and down, it's sort of 2 steps up and 1 step down.
Coastal communities are particularly becoming a heightened concern, not just for sea level rise, but the United States has not seen a major hurricane landfall since Hurricane Wilma in October 2005, some 12 years ago.
We're getting more and more of the US population moving towards the coast. You know, so many people moving to Florida when they retire or moving there for job opportunities, but all along the US East Coast, the populations are increasing. So people who've never grown up with hurricanes, aren't familiar with what they can do, are moving into hurricane-prone regions. So that's a problem just because of their understanding of what they need to do and evacuate and so on. But it's a bigger problem as sea level rises, that they are at even more risk than populations that have been there for the last century or more.
So I think security can be one of the things that kind of helps bind us together and to a much more substantive discussion about, so what are we going to do? What are our policies given that we have this change in climate? So what are we going to do?
All those people living there, we can't just tell them to move, right? That's not sensible or realistic, and you wouldn't expect them to do that. But something I've wondered over the years is, if we wait for a hurricane to happen in a particular region that we know is very vulnerable, and then if we offer people the opportunity, this is the value of your home the day the storm hit, the day before the storm hit. If we give you this money, rather than giving you sort of federal emergency money or whatever to rebuild and rebuild and rebuild, then maybe people could make a better life somewhere else.
Something we can all do to help ensure a healthy climate for our kids and our grandkids is to reduce our carbon footprint. In the United States, CO2 production per person per year is approximately 19 tons. At the curb, we throw away half a ton of trash for the trash collector, and yet we put 19 tons of CO2 in the atmosphere. So we have something we can focus on.
This country can do and does do amazing things when it's focused. We're not focused yet on the climate issue and either the adaptation or getting to a new energy system. But at some point we will. And I don't know when that's going to happen, but at some point we will. And at some point I absolutely believe with all my heart that the U.S. will lead the world into a better energy future where we're all going to have plenty of energy, it's affordable energy, and we'll be able to really stop putting the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
If we find the efficient way to use the knowledge together with where we came from, what we believe in, and where we want to go, we get a cleaner environment. It's more ethical, but it's also better for the economy. It's better for national security. And so there are real options for profits out there if we use our knowledge wisely and with respect.